Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to a special edition of A Piece of Cake. And no, I'm not coming from a robbery or anything like that. I'm wearing the mask. I'm actually outside. That's why I've got my hoodie on. But first and foremost, we're going to welcome Brother Muawiyah, who is a graduate from Medina, mashallah tabarakallah, has his own institute. We're going to get into all of that. And we have over there, that is Abdurraheem Green.
Yeah, and you're also listening to ex-gangster, I have to remind you, yeah. Abdul Haqq Baker, Dr. Abdul Haqq Baker. No, you were never a gangster, bro, were you, bro? Stuff.
No. People would say that, but that wasn't me.
That's just like my whiteness coming through, man. Like, it's just like white. It's just like white. It's just like rap equals gangster. That's it. Right? So.
Well, you know what? Everyone wanted to glamorize it and everything like that, and it is what it is. But no, we were just regular youngsters doing our thing. Muawiyah would know that. So those who are watching us can see we do things live. As I'm going into my apartment now, then things will get back to normal. So I've just walked in now. I'm going to put the lights on, and we can continue.
Yeah.
So here we go. See, this is more what you're used to, mashallah. So, Muawiyah, you've come in. Alhamdulillah. We're really pleased to have you with us, my brother. We said to ourselves that we wanted to. This is something you and I discussed before, and we said we're going to have some of the younger generation on to talk to us old school. And old school, some will call Abdurraheem and myself OGs. I'm not sure that Abdurraheem even knows what that means. I hope he does, coming from his middle class background. But yeah, we're old school. We'll stick with the old school, inshallah. So Muawiyah, thank you, Jazakallah khair, for coming on board. A bit of a, I think, different start, as it were, to this particular show. But Abdurraheem, mashallah, Muawiyah was one of the younger generation. Okay, and I think that I would like to say he, Abdul Wahid Stevenson, brothers like them, mashallah, I would like to say proudly that they have excelled beyond where we were from the point of being students of knowledge, going out, completing their studies in Medina, and coming back and starting institutes. Thank you, Malahat. Welcome, Jazakallah khair for that. So, Muawiyah, we're going to ask you questions and we're going to probe you. And we're going to be asking you about your journey and also about the good and the bad influences of us old school upon yourself in the dawah and how you came to Islam, mashallah. So my first question
the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Exactly. My first question to you is going to be is, when did you embrace Islam?
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. So الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. So it started off college actually. My journey is a very simple one. I was in my maths lesson in college and the teacher hadn't turned up that day. So everyone was like dusting about and doing stuff and I was just doing my work. And one of the kids in the class, he literally got his chair, plunked it in front of me and said to me, "What do you know about Islam?" Like, just like that. I mean, like, what's this guy hassling me for? Like, what's going on? I don't know. I said, I don't know anything about Islam. So he started to tell me about the Anbiya, the prophets, and what kind of stuff. And the brother's from a Pakistani background, heritage. And I was of the assumption that everyone from that area worship monkeys and elephants.
SubhanAllah.
So I was a bit confused that why is this guy who worships monkeys and elephants talking about Musa and Isa kind of stuff? I was confused. I was intrigued, but confused, but still on the defensive. Like, yeah, this, that, and the other, defending Christianity. So he basically opened up avenues to Islam or knowledge about Islam that I had previously had no knowledge about. I think the only experience or exposure I had to Islam before that moment was once when I was in secondary school. There was a chapter about Islam in the religious studies book. And because I went to very Christian schools, it was 7-day Adventist, every day was assembly, church, singing and all that. So it was very Christian. I said, so what's this Islam thing? Because I was them, they worship Muhammad. And I was it. That was my only exposure to Islam before that moment. So after that encounter, I went home and I did what I guess what these days we'll call it Googling. So I just went to an encyclopedia. My mum had purchased the World Book. You know, there was two main encyclopedias back in the day. There was Britannica and there was World Book. So I had the World Book version. So I went to first Islam, and then the footnotes that said look at Quran. I went to Quran, and then Sunnah, and then Muhammad, and then Sunni, and then Shia. After flicking all these pages for days and weeks, after a couple of months, I eventually, I even started to give da'wah. That was the irony. I began giving da'wah, and I'm a Muslim. Now, some may ask, why? Why did you do that? And I think, for me personally, I think it was a conscious decision. I'll be honest, because I had learned enough to know that once you become Muslim, then your book of deeds are open, and I had this fallacy that I'll start rectifying myself so that when I do become Muslim, I don't come with old habits and sins. I'll get better now, and then I'll become Muslim. Therefore, I come with a nice, good habits. It was a silly idea, but it happened. It happened. Then in the end, it kind of culminated to this one event when I was at some kind of week-long. It was like a part of university thing. When you go to university, you check out university for a week, and all the other applicants are there. And we often got to discussions about religion. Obviously, I was waving the Islam flag, and then people got confused. This guy is defending Islam, but not Muslim, but whatever, innit? And then it came time for lunchtime, and I had my plate of food, and there was a sausage on the plate. There was one geezer there, Zishan. If you've seen the Zishan, Jazakallah khair for this moment. He looked at my plate and said, "You hypocrite! This Islam that eating pork." And I said to myself, "It's what it is, isn't it? I got to fix this. I got to change this, isn't it?" So after that event, I went to walk to the local masjid, and I took Shahada, and that was kind of how I got from Kufr to Islam, and that was basically that happened just before the second year of college began. So I hadn't actually gone to college. All this happened during some holiday. So took my Shahada. Now I'm in college. And that is kind of where my journey really began in Islam, because literally, as I went back to college, I discovered the prayer room. And then when I became Muslim during college or uni, that the prayer room is like the sanctuary, is like the most blessed part of your journey. That connection with the brotherhood, that connection with Islam, with other Muslims. I really feel sorry for those who become Muslim outside of college uni, because they don't have that place to go to where there's always Muslims there to talk to. Besides them, again, obviously I had the masajid, but I'm just saying that there's something literally, but you're going every day and there's a prayer room.
Now, so, I'm gonna come back to that with you, Muawiyah, inshallah. I'm gonna throw it over to Abdurraheem, because that was your experience in a Western college context, mashallah, which must have been a beautiful experience in itself. And for those who are asking, sister, I think Mariam was asking, what's the title today? And I'm gonna just push it out there. Basically, different generations, same message. I think that's what we're looking at here. Muawiyah comes from a different generation to Abdurraheem and myself, but when we're looking at the message that's being propagated, there's a consistency there, and that's in line with the message that we're trying to emulate of the Anbiya. We know that all of the prophets and the messengers came with that single message of Tawheed, mashallah, tabarakallah. So today, different generations, one message. So Abdurraheem, I'm going to throw it over to you, the guru of the dawah.
Yeah. Throwing open to you. You're gonna ask me a question, or you just gonna throw it open to me? You know what that just shows? It really just shows that sometimes someone just needs to make a little bit of effort to give dawah. People think dawah is some like big up, really hard, difficult thing, but it could just be literally. I just love all the guys saying, "What do you know about Islam?" Right? Like it's like like one of the techniques that I heard from one of the brothers, one of the sheikhs, his was even like more confrontational. It was like, "Are you a Muslim?" You actually go and ask someone, "Are you a Muslim?" And if they say no, you say, "Why not?" And literally, I've tried it. And like you'd think that people, people just get really flummoxed. They just don't know what to say, and it's like, oh, I don't really know. Like they're just like refuse outright. But a lot of the time, it's like they admit why I'm not Muslim, which is like a huge potential. So it's really good. It just shows that dawah is not difficult. At least you can just. There's so many examples. Like Muawiyah. So Muawiyah is definitely, mashallah, encyclopedia, man. Mashallah, pulling encyclopedia, starts reading through it, learns his deen from the Britannic Encyclopedia Britannica. That's really beautiful, man. Because it's a lovely story, man. Love it.
I think
I've got to add to that one actually. I got to add to that actually. There was one guy. I mean, if you put my experiences was weird, but there's one guy I came across, and he said he's Muslim, and I said, "Oh, mashallah, when did you become Muslim?" He said, "Well, I mean, I've read about Islam and I Islam." So I said, when did you take your shahada? He said to me, "What's a shahada?" I said, "You know, when you become Muslim, you take the shahada." And he goes, "I've never heard it before. What is it?" So I said, "Okay, have you spoke to any Muslims before?" And he said, "No, you're the first one I spoke to." I said, "Okay, have you read the Quran?" He said, "No, I've never read the Quran in my life." I said, "Have you been to a masjid at least?" He said, "No." I said, "How are you Muslim then?" He said, "Because I read an encyclopedia about Islam, what the Muslims believe." And I said, "That's me." And he said, "Is that it?" He said, "That's it, yeah." I said,
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. I was like, "Are you?" That's when I met that. He was from south of England, so near Bath area. So I sent him a copy of the Mus'haf, and he was like so happy and overjoyed. That was the first time he actually got exposure to the Quran, and it got me thinking about all the people who say, "Oh, so and so, they weren't exposed to Islam." You know, this guy, his only exposure was what he read in the books about Islam, probably written by a non-Muslim, and he was so much on the fitrah, it just settled. That's just me. He said he even said, I mean, when I read it, they said that God can't have a son. I said, yeah, that makes sense. How can God have a son? That was literally his extent of al-Islam.
Muawiyah, what you're saying there is interesting that we're discussing this, and it reminds me. I'm not going to repeat how I became Muslim, mashallah. Many have heard that, but one of my friends, and I've never mentioned it before, one of my best friends from before Islam, Jesus. His name was. We didn't used to call him Jesus. Spanish name, Jesus, we would say in English. And when we were very close. And when I became a Muslim, we sort of drifted away because, as you know, the overzealousness, and I didn't castigate him or whatever, but he saw me really just diving into the religion, and he couldn't really identify that. And we were close, as close to his parents and everything. But what happened is that years later, my brother, who, alhamdulillah, he came to the deen 18 years after me and everything. He one day just said to me, "Oh, Jesus was looking for you." And I was like, "Really?" I said, because I'd fallen out of touch with him now. It's been 15, 16 years or whatever. So I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah, he came to the house. He was asking for you and everything." And I said, and he said he was thinking of becoming a Muslim. I said, "Fantastic. Have you got his contact number?" And he said, "No." And I said, "Okay, when was it you spoke to him?" He goes, "It's about a year ago that he came." So I looked at him, I said, "You're telling me this a year later?" So then I was sort of like, okay, I need to find out what's going on. Like, "Why are you telling me this year?" He goes, "I just remembered." So what I did now is, and I'm not going to give you his surname, but it's obviously a typical, rare Spanish surname, not a typical one. So I looked through directories for his name. And I thought, I've got to find him. So I found, I think, 5 names, Jesus and his surname. And I was thinking, I don't know which one it is. So I rang every single one of them, and I left a voice, particularly the ones in South London, and I left a voice note on there saying, "Geez, it's Abdul Haqq, it's Tony to be," as they used to call me by my initials. And I heard you were trying to link up with me. I'd love to be in touch with you. Now, I didn't know what I gave my numbers. I said, I'm in London for a while. I was living in Saudi and everything. Lo and behold, he rang back. And he said, I hardly listened to my voice notes. He said, yeah, it's a year ago I was looking for you. How come you're coming up now? So I met him. I called him. I said, let's meet. I said, I knew he lived in Balham before. He got a place in Tooting just down the road from my mum. We sat in that chicken cottage in Tooting, Beck. on the high road. I met him in the chicken cottage. So we sat there. And I said, so what's happening? And my brother told me you wanted to become Muslim and everything like that. He goes, you know what, Tone, as he used to call me, he said, yeah, I didn't know where to go and everything. So I just did the Shahada in my bedroom. I said, he didn't know what it was at first. He said, all I did is say, like, I believe in Allah and Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is the messenger of Allah. And he said, am I a Muslim? I said, yeah, you are. But so did anyone witness it? Did you? He said, no, no one witnessed. He said, I'm a Muslim. I just wanted to become a Muslim. So I said to him, okay, he goes, so what do I need to do now? And I was there and I called one of the brothers, you know, Ismail Williams. So because we knew each other, we used to go Boys Brigade together, we grew up together. So I called him and it's about 1-2 o'clock in the morning. I said, Jesus here, come. So then he came along, we sat there, was eating chicken, and he goes, can I do it now? Can I do it again? I said, if you want. So he did his Shahada there again in front of us just to confirm everything. So as we're saying, when someone wants to embrace, when Allah guides them, they could be sitting in their bedroom on their own. They could be on the top of a mountain. They could be, but that acknowledgement, that guidance that Allah brings you to is such that nothing is stopping you from doing that. So, mashallah, hearing your story, like giving dawah before you were a Muslim, this individual that you've mentioned, having read the encyclopedia, and Abdurraheem's journey he's spoken about many times before. And that's why across generations, when Allah guides us, there's none to misguide. You know, there's none to, as we know in the beginning of the Khutbatul Hajah. But what I want to bring now to the next thing, you mentioned college.
Yeah.
What made you decide to traverse the student of knowledge path and go to Medina?
Okay, that's the interesting part because like I mentioned, as I went to college, we had a prayer room. There was a few brothers there on the Salafi Manhaj, and they used to attend Friday circles. Now, back in the day, you probably heard about the Friday circle in East London. I think it was initially done in Farouk's house, and it was in Abid's house. So there was they come to every Friday, we would attend a lesson. It was great, and it was a good vibe. As we went there, it was very serious, no mucking about. They went through hadith, people had to memorize, and it was basically there was that whole buzz about seeking knowledge and studying and that kind of stuff. People took it seriously, and I think one thing which stuck out to me from the very beginning, which resonated a lot with me, coming from my background, was this focus on adillah, on evidence. So going from Christianity, being confronted about Christianity, being confronted of the realities that Christianity is based primarily on dhunun, people's suspicions and on opinions and that kind of stuff. Nothing really grounded in any textual facts. When that was revealed to me and it became obvious that a lot of what Christians believe is literally just things they make up, then I kind of made a premise, or kind of made it almost like a rule that, I'm not going to accept things until I have evidence for it. This is even from the very beginning. I even remember when I first took Shahada, I think it was the first week, actually, it was the first week. I went to masjid to attend the Salah. By that time, I hadn't even learned how to pray. I was just going and just following what they were doing. They gave me a tiny little booklet, the usual Hanafi booklet, teaches how to pray, kind of stuff. And I remember going in the front door and I'd already started. And I said to myself, well, I don't know what to do if they started. So rather than make it up, I'll wait until I learn how to do it. So I'll always have this position of wait until you have knowledge and then do stuff rather than just do things haphazardly. So that was kind of like the approach that we had. It was this whole seeking knowledge, that kind of stuff. It was from the early stage or early moment up until, I think, because I became Muslim about 1997 or 98 on that time. And I think it was 1998 or 99 when the teachers from the Islamic University of Medina, they came to the UK, went to Scotland actually, to take applicants. So like a 2-week thing. So we went, me and some of the brothers who were there studying, the brothers who used to attend a Friday lesson, we traveled up to Scotland, spent 2 weeks there with the Mashaykh, slept in the masjid, and just had the interview, and that was it. And we got on with our lives, and a year later got acceptance. So that was kind of like those few years. Well, if it was 1 year in last year in college and 1 year out of college working, and that was after I was in Medina. So it wasn't too long. after becoming Muslim where I got accepted and entered into Medina University? It's about 2 years.
Let me stop you there because I want to bring Abdurraheem in. Abdurraheem, from our perspective now, we didn't. I'm not saying that we didn't have that drive, but did you ever have that intention?
I applied to Medina twice actually. Yeah, so it's quite interesting, my story. Like, so I used to, like, when I first became Muslim, I used to hang out in a lot of different places. You know, from Sufi, you know, Sheikh Nazim Sufi dhikr circles to Hizb ut-Tahrir circles to you know, most of the brothers who were my close friends though were like either Ikhwani or Salafi. I mean, they didn't really use those terms, yeah, but now, I mean, I know in retrospect that, you know, they were, that was their thinking, yeah. And they were always like telling me, Abdurraheem, keep it, yeah. I was sort of into, I wasn't into Shiism, but I was like very enamored by the whole, you know, the Iranian Revolution and what was going on there. But I never really got down with Shiism as a belief system. It never made sense to me. It's like, it just didn't make any sense. It was like a bit too much like Catholicism, really. But yeah, so I did. But the thing was, so at the time, one of the other places I used to go to a lot was Muntada, Al-Muntada, right? And like, you remember, Abdul Haqq, bro, back in those days, the availability of literature was really sparse. Do you like remember like any book that came out, or like almost any book, like it didn't matter what it was, right? It's like there was so little stuff. We would just grab it and consume it. You know, obviously it's changed so much now, but in those days, so you just read whatever you could, really, right? And one of the only available books of like, it's not even a tafsir, right? But like of tafsir was Maududi's tafsir of Quran.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
Right, the tafsir of Quran, I think it's called, right? And so anyway, these guys from Medina came, yeah, and you know, they interviewed me, and like they were asking, you know, okay, what have you read? So I mentioned Maududi. Mentioning Maududi was like, that, apparently the brothers told me that was it. You know Sheikh Faraz Farat, yeah?
Farad, mashallah, yes.
No Sheikh Faraz, right? Yeah, well, he's a Sheikh now, but, you know, back in the days, he was just this young boy in the young Muslims, you know, Ikhwani little youth group of the Ikhwan, right? Alhamdulillah. But anyway, that's a whole story. I have a whole story how we had a plan to get him on board and get him into the Salafi Dawah, you know. Well, that's a whole different, that's a story for another time.
But that's interesting.
I went over to Medina and I applied and they accepted me, basically. However, by that time I was married and like I had a couple of kids, yeah, and like practically it had gone, the opportunity. There's just no way I could just leave my family, right, and sort of drop everything and go to Medina. So, you know, my opportunity passed. I always recommend, you know, this one thing I always say to brothers, you know, when they become Muslim, and you know, if I see they have that mindset, they're a bit studious, I say learn Arabic before you get involved in dawah, before you get whatever, seek knowledge, learn Arabic, because once that opportunity goes, it's going to be really hard for you to, once you're married and you've got responsibilities and this and that, it's so hard to, you know, become a student of knowledge like that. So yeah, I did try, but you know, it didn't happen for me, bro.
I didn't know that, Abdurraheem. Mashallah. Yeah. I know a lot about you because that's not that far back we go, but I didn't know that. For me, I never, to be honest with you, I never had that intention to go to Medina or study in Yemen and everything. And that might surprise some individuals and say, yeah, typical Abdul Haqq. But no, what it was because I was working in the legal profession at the time. Yeah. I had a secure job. I was a homeowner. I had my wife and my daughter when I'd come to Dean. And also I felt to myself, there was this drive that everyone has to become a student of knowledge. And I didn't accept that. I said, no, there are other functions that some of us can play. And when I was thrust into leadership with Brixton Mosque, reluctantly so, then I saw that I had to focus more on leadership, community issues. And I saw that my learning process, attending all the study circles and everything like that, East London, your study circles, Abdurraheem, at your home and everything, all of this became difficult for me. And I actually sought knowledge from scholars and said, look, I don't want to be in this leadership position because my Arabic learning has gone down, my everything else I can't attend. I'm attending to affairs of the community. And they advised, they said, as long as you've got students of knowledge to advise you and nurture you on the deen, and you're in touch with the scholars, then having a leadership position, as long as you're fearing Allah and doing the right thing, is a noble thing to do. Now, that didn't mean me accepting that, okay, leadership as opposed to student of knowledge. But what it did show me is that, and I would say to brothers, not everyone is cut out to be a student of knowledge.
Yeah.
Not everyone is cut out for that. And I think that drive at the time, that no, if you're not a student of knowledge, is not worth being anything else, a businessman or a doctor or whatever. So that never really washed with me. Not that I frowned upon students of knowledge. As Muawiyah know, we supported brothers going over to Medina. We supported the study.
Off the back of that, Haqq, bro. Off the back of that, bro, I just want to ask Muawiyah something, because I think that just there's a great sort of link between what you said and something that came to my mind right now, is that one of the things that you know, for a while, one of the things that was a big complaint about the brothers who went to Medina is they came back and it's almost like they had studied this knowledge and just did nothing with it.
Right.
Like some of them almost literally nothing, like not even a study circle, right? You know, like they were taxi drivers. They were doing things like, you know, and I remember this was like for years, it was almost as if Medina had somehow killed people's like drive and ambition. And like, you know, they felt even shy, which is sort of good in a way, but it's almost as if they felt shy to even talk about the deen, which is sort of like weird, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Muawiyah, bro, you haven't definitely been like that, because mashallah, I've looked at your website. You're, you know, discussing this whole thing about Bitcoin. Abdul Haqq said you've got an institute. So you didn't definitely, what do you think, bro? Is something in Medina changed? Because there seems to be a lot of brothers, mashallah, doing good stuff. Or is that coming from somewhere else? I don't know. Did they learn from previous generations? Is there a new vibe there? Like what's going on?
So I mean, there's lots of things that can be said about graduates and their impacts wherever they're from, not just the UK, but whether, I mean, I remember one time, you're gonna probably laugh at this scenario. I went to Jeddah to get a passport for one of my kids that were born over there. So I have a few kids that were born there, so I had to get their passport done so I can leave the country. You know, the usual stuff. And there was one guy, a security guard, who I had to go into the door, and he's put your stuff here through the metal detector thing, X-ray thing. So I put my stuff there. He said, go through the metal detector. Went through, checked me and that kind of stuff. He goes, "Oh, you from Medina?" So, yeah, I'm a student in Faculty of Sharia. And the guy said to me, "Oh, mashallah, I graduated there from myself." I'm like, looked at him. I said, "Sheikh, why are you here then? why is there a security guard of the British consulate?"
Yeah.
Who's a graduate of Faculty of Sharia, and he said, "Oh, you know, he was from one of the African countries. I'm not sure which country it was, but it was Africa." And it shocked me that there was someone with such knowledge that he could benefit his people, but yet he's just a security guard for the British consulate, for all things as well. I mean, it has their own circumstances and their own motivations. And like I kind of mentioned too, is that sometimes not everyone has it in them to take that road, especially when it comes to like looking after family and paying the bills. And when just before we graduated, some of us got together, had a little meeting. What we're going to do when we graduate, and that was actually a very, very big concern for the Dullah that are graduating, because some were thinking, okay, look, we just got this degree now. What can we do with this degree in terms of actually paying bills and looking after family? Some were concerned about, you know, oh no, we can't really do anything with it. There's no jobs you can really get with it. Now, in my head, because the previous 2 years before we graduate, in the summer holidays, I'd already set up some summer holiday classes in universities. So I already had the idea that, look, there's a demand for people to learn Arabic. people want to learn about the deen. So there's definitely a way in Avi to continue your studies and continue education without necessarily doing nothing to relate to the deen. So I said to everyone, look, my idea is that when I go back, I want to continue what I've been doing in previous 2 summer holidays, but on a permanent level, set up an institute teaching Arabic, which is why we set up the institute Arabic courses. And there was a lot of negativity in terms of that. Not a lot, but there was brothers like saying, well, would anyone pay for that? I don't think anyone's going to be interested in paying for Arabic and that kind of stuff. How can you really make a living out of it? But I was stubborn. I mean, that's just how I am. If I have an idea in my head, I just go for it, even if people say it doesn't work out. And that's the kind of why I went down the route of establishing an institute, is because I already had 2 years prior where I saw there was a massive demand. I had a class of like 30 students throughout the whole summer holiday, and I thought this could work. But with regards to the graduates, some go back and teach. Now that teaching might be either with a masjid that's already established, or they may set up their own thing. Some, which is unfortunate, stay in Saudi and just English. So they've got a whole degree, but then they just stay in Saudi and teach English, which that's not a criticism. I mean, everyone has to pay their bills and do what's about right for themselves and their family. But that's just an option. People just love it there. They don't want to come back here. And some just literally just disappear, and I have no idea where they are. It's just how it is.
But then, let me ask that. Thank you for that. And Abdurraheem, brilliant that you brought that in.
What's the name of the institute, bro? What's the name of your institute?
I'll forward you a link later on, but it's Al-Madar is a charity. So we first started off with Arabic courses, because when we first started, I said to the students, what should we call it? And they said, Arabic courses. And I was like, all right, then let's call it Arabic courses. But then as we started to move on, as years went on, we started to do madrasa for kids, we started doing umrah, and started doing other things. So it didn't make sense having all these other subtopics underneath the banner of Arabic courses, because it's not to do Arabic.
Yeah.
So we eventually branched out to other things, and now we're a registered charity called Al-Madar.
Al-Madar.
Now, can I ask you about Al-Madar? Someone's asked, is there a support network for new Muslims, convert Muslims? That's one thing I'm going to come and ask you about that with regards to contact. And then Abdurraheem, yourself as well, because of what you're doing with your organization, Spearing your organization, I know that there's a lot of work you do with new Muslims, converts and that like as well. So before I hand that over to you to speak about that question that's come up, is there a support network for even Muslims, established Muslims who may need it? First, I'm going to give a shout out to my daughter. Fatima has come on there, Fatima Baker. And I know that my other daughter, mashallah, is employed by you, Unesa Abdul Haqq Baker. So as a proud dad, I think I'd just throw that out there for the moment and then come back to the question to you, mashallah. So are there support networks out there, or do your organizations, both of you, cater or provide a support network for new Muslims, or any Muslim actually who needs that support? Starting with you, Muawiyah, first, and Abdurraheem, jumping over to you.
Yeah, so one of the biggest issues that you get with because of running any institute is literally the bills. So I remember there was about 2 years ago, 2019, there was actually an opportunity to do a whole 1 week dawah training in KHAIR. So I was there for about a week, and I was very pumped with the whole go rap and all that kind of stuff. And I was gonna, take over the world with da'wah. And what I feared just of a continuation just continued. What I mean by continuation, as in managing an institution is so time consuming. I mean, it kills you. And that's one of the things I think, which is one of the reasons why some of the du'a disappears, because there's so many other things that are involved to doing da'wah that just takes them away from doing da'wah. Doing accounts, building, dealing with compliance issues, dealing with insurance, dealing with, there's so many other nonsense. And now we've got COVID. Basically our madrasa or our markaz has been closed most of 2020, and we're closed now. So we still have to pay the bills though. So all these kind of these issues of constantly having to pay the bills and chase after the bottom line, it's a big distraction. So when I came back from the KHAIR thing, that was one of the things I wanted to do. Wanted to establish, weekly like lessons or kind of lectures, that kind of stuff. But it just never happened. I'll be honest with you. And our main reason is because of time. We don't really have a massive influx of income. I mean, you can only do so much with revenue and fees for a madrasa. There's only so much you can do with that. And now COVID. So that's just our main gripe. But in saying that, in my own saving grace, we did manage to set one thing up, which was a monthly workshop for the youth about how to transition and maintain deen while in uni and college. And I used the material notes from the KHAIR program as a basis for the sessions. I think we had about 6 sessions before, and then I think the 6th one, COVID came, and then everything shut down. But we started about everything. The kids really liked it. They came. We spoke about the Quran. We spoke about we had a whole session about the Quran, one whole 2-hour session. Sunnah, 2-hour session. We talked about the oneness of Allah. All of it, basically, I just got the folder that I got from KHAIR. I just made it as a kid-friendly into slides, and we just delivered that to them. And the only reason why I stopped is because of COVID, because there's no one able to come in. So, but inshallah, once and if this thing gets better and we can go back to some level of normality, then inshallah we're going to try and have something more like that. Inshallah, start up again. But that's just our little problem. But inshallah, Sheikh Green can talk to us, inshallah.
Yeah, you're a student of Sheikh Green with
I think Hamza must have taught him. But yeah, that's really interesting, bro. And it's you know what you said is so true, because basically that's what I am now. I'm an administrator. I'm a manager. But I mean, it's not. Alhamdulillah, I don't have to deal with all the nitty gritty of account, because I'm terrible at that stuff anyway. Yeah. So my stuff is, but I still have to. That's basically most of my time is really managing and motivating and giving people direction and making sure people are on track. But it's not a bad thing. It's honestly not a bad thing, because like after years and years of going to Speaker's Corner and doing the university circuit, like I'm a big believer in efficiency, right? So if I can produce comparable results with less effort, I'm all for it, and I think at the end of the day, so I may not be giving dawah, but if there's 700 other people giving dawah, and maybe some of them are even better than me, inshallah, then that's even better. I'm happy to help run an organization like that. I think sometimes we have to look at it like that. And the fact that you've got experience, and you've been there and you've walked the walk and talked the talk, it does mean that inshallah, hopefully people take you a little bit seriously. I mean, it's quite interesting in our organization, we've had a few people come in at a managerial level who were not really du'at. They were good managerial, they had good managerial skills, they had corporate skills, but they were not really sort of, they'd never really done that sort of grassroots dawah stuff, right? And like they didn't have that respect. People would obviously obey them because that's that's the Emir, right? But there wasn't that level of respect. There was always that sort of resistance, and you could see at the back of a person's head, it's like, what does he know, right? He hasn't really done any dawah, that whole thing. So yeah, but it's very interesting, bro. Mario, talking about it.
But Abdurraheem, but on
right.
that.
Getting wrapped up in that, yeah.
On that, Abdurraheem, brilliant that you've mentioned that. There's 2 things that come out of that you do need that organizer sometimes, because du'at and those callers to Islam, we can be very disorganized, but also that really brings me back to Al Ansar, and I think that was a good template, because in that, I remember one of the things when we started it, and I said, right, Abdurraheem, just do the dawah. And so you literally, that's all you had to do. And I know that there was, I think, a day that you would come in and write your reports. I said, no, you have to come in at least one day, Abdurraheem, and give your report. And so you'd give me the reports, which I still have, as you know, we've looked at them in the past and everything. And I think that was a brilliant template. I was given the dawah with you, but I wasn't doing as much, still a lot, but not as much, because I was doing all of the administrative, managerial, making the appointments, and that's the team that we were supervising. Remember, we had an accountant, we had a social worker, that my sister was there in social working. We had those particular aspects we had to deal with. But my focus there, especially for yourself, was like, Abdurraheem is on board. He needs to give the dawah, and I cannot bog him down completely with administration. And I think that's important. That, again, coming back to my point, not all of us need to be da'is. You do need those with organizational skills. You do need those with administrative skills, financial skills. And a comment came up, and it's a really true comment. that why is it, I'm paraphrasing what they've said, why is it that in these efforts among Muslims, calling to the Sunnah, grassroots like ourselves, that beneficial education lacks funding from the community? But we know that the community will pay for entertainment, the edutainment industry, and these big events and nasheeds. And I'm not talking against that in any particular way, but I'm saying, but with the sustainable, efficient, effective call to Islam done professionally by brothers like yourself, like by sisters, the funders, the stakeholders are few and far between. And when we compare this with other faiths, we pale into insignificance. But yet,
Absolutely,
when we look at the most generous, the most committed to fundraising and sadaqah in Ramadan and charitable causes, no one beats the Muslim communities across the UK. No one. We see the food banks that are there for non-Muslims. A lot of them are funded and supported by Muslims, which is a very noble effort, and I don't detract from that at all.
Yeah.
But
Bro,
what's
just a
happening
quick
with
statistic.
the dawah?
I'm just going to
I
throw
mean,
in
one story.
just let me throw in a quick statistic. Yeah, from our research in our era, basically, you know, when it comes to Christian organizations, most Christian organizations, their spend matrix is 85% of their finances go on missionary activities, right? And the rest goes on relief work. Yeah. I think when it comes to Muslims, we're probably 90%, 99%, 95%, right, on relief work, and maybe not even, you know, 5% for dawah, you know, for calling people to Islam and educating and stuff like that. It's a complete flip. You know, anyway, just an interesting point. Yeah.
From my experience over the years, I'll give you one event that happened, which actually was kind of a turning point at some level in this field. So there was one holiday. We did Quran madrasa, as you do. So we have normally have madrasa that follows school timetable, and then we wanted just to have something on the summer holiday just for those who wanted to have in a space in the summer holiday, something beneficial. So and also in the other room, my sister was doing some English tuition and maths. So she was doing her secular stuff and I was doing my religious stuff. So one lady came in and said, "Oh, brother, can I join your Quran class, or can my kids join your Quran class?" "Yeah, that's fine. You know, this is the price. This is what it is." This was, "Oh, brother, this looks so good, mashallah. This is so good, mashallah. But brother, I'm a single mother. Could you make a discount? You know, it's very difficult for me." I said, "Fine, cool. I mean, you know, I'll give you 50% off. That's fine." Kids signed up. Everyone was happy, walking in, and she left. About 3 minutes after she left, she came back in. "Oh, brother, what's in that other room there?" I said, "Oh, they're doing English and maths." "Oh, how much is that one?" And I told her the price, which was more than what we were paying. "Oh, can my kids join that one as well?" I said, "Yeah, they can join as well." And she handed that over the cash. No negotiating, no nothing. Just literally threw full money in my face. And I looked at her and I thought to myself, I thought you was a single mom and you can't afford it and the blah, blah, blah. But when it came to the English and the maths, you literally throw money at me. I felt gutted because in my mind, I'm like, but wait, surely one is more important than the other. And surely that should reflect but the thing is, I don't blame her for that. The thing is, I don't blame her for that. I think we have a culture where knowledge is not valued at all. Knowledge has to be for free. It must be fi sabilillah. A'udhu billah, how could you ever charge? A'udhu billah, everyone must run on dua gas. That this is the psychology we have. And it's unfortunate and it's very sad. And what ends up happening is that we end up with du'as getting burnt out, whereby what they're trying to do is just not sustainable. The prices that they want to charge, it's just not sustainable, and they just end up leaving. Like I said, that's why some of them just go and do English somewhere else and hijrah and just leave the country because it's not working out. It just doesn't work. financially
And
speaking. And
yeah. In addition, can I just add something, bro? Sorry, Mo, to interrupt, and Abdul Haqq, bro. Just very quickly, as something to add to that, which we used to, say in the early days of our era when we were fundraising. It's like, what sort of people do you want to be your imams? What sort of people do you want to be the people teaching your kids, right? Because we know your kids are struggling with secularism, atheism, evolution, right? All of these type of things that the imams have no answer for. They do not know how to answer these things. And in fact, you really need levels, really high levels of intellectual capacity, right? And a sort of a broad depth of study in order to be able to have leaders who can deal with these things, right? So if you pay, I'm sorry to say, but if you pay peanuts, you get monkeys, right? You can't just, like you said, you can't expect people to run on gas. Yes, there are people who are dedicated and they do it because of the love of it. But this is what I used to say. What do you want us to do? Like, do you just think we say Bismillah and we breathe air and the food comes and the rent is paid? Is that what you think? Right? Seriously. Right? We used to say a lot of this because we realized that, when it came to fundraising for our era, even before we could really do that, we have to try and change people's mindset, try and shift the culture a bit. I think we did that. I think we really did push the message out for like 3-4 years nonstop. Like, you need to fund the dawah, you need to fund these efforts, right? And alhamdulillah, I don't want to say, I'm not going to complain because mashallah, the community in UK have really supported our era, mashallah, and in fact across the world, alhamdulillah. So because of the support of our brothers and sisters, they have realized it's important. But sometimes
I think that's mainly,
Abdurraheem,
I think that's mainly from the younger generation. I think of who are second,
no,
third
even
generation.
honestly, bro, even aunties, uncles, quite a wide range of
mashallah.
people. Yeah.
But let me come. That's really good to hear. That's really refreshing to hear that. I want to move to another stage now as we come into the last quarter of the show. Muawiyah, the good, the bad, and the ugly. What benefits did you get from your elders, and what things put you off about how we were leading the dawah, if you like, at the time that you embraced and developed in the deen?
So the thing is, when I first accepted Islam back in the late 90s, and obviously started studying in Medina University in the early noughties, at the time that I saw bad, because everyone had the same hamas, everyone had the same zeal about studying, seeking knowledge, going to the Mashaykh's house, attending lessons, that kind of stuff. Everyone had the same kind of zeal. And I think at some level, at least for myself anyway, I kind of needed that. I mean, everyone has their initial stage where they become Muslim, they go a bit over the top with everything, they want to do everything all at once. And then after a while, they start to calm down, and then they find their plateau and find their equilibrium, you could say, between what Islam asks them to do and their natural character. I think that's very important. Everyone who accepts Islam, they need to find that equilibrium, who they are as a person and who they must be as a Muslim. There has to be a balance. And when I first became Muslim, it was about, forget the whole life before and let's go to something completely new. Just completely new. And like I said, it was necessary for me at the time, because if I was wishy-washy at the beginning, I don't know where I would be now. But so when I first came to Deen, that was how it was. And I think when in Medina, things changed a lot for myself. And I guess that happens with everyone when they start seeking knowledge. Because when I got to Medina, the scholars, what I found was that what the scholars were saying and the answers they were giving to me about my questions wasn't in line with what I was taught before. As in, some of the things that we were doing, especially to each other, I guess as Salafis at the time, it wasn't right. So, like, I remember specifically, Sheikh Khalid Radadi was in the Arabic Institute in the Shu'bah, and there was some things that I would say, Sheikh, brothers say that this we should do this, we should do that, and the Sheikh's like, what are you talking about? That's not right. And that's when I had to realize, wait, if I'm Salafi and the Salafi ulama are not saying this, so what's going on? Where's this coming from? And that's kind of where I began to distance myself from some of the behavior of the brothers that I was with at the time. Not because of malice, it's just because what I found, what I was taught, what I was doing wasn't in line with what was being said. So let me give you an example, because you mentioned Abdul Wahid earlier on. So Abdul Wahid, I knew Abdul Wahid from the time we both applied in UK to Medina University. So when he came to Medina, I said to the brothers that I was with at the time, yeah, let's invite him to our he just come. Let's invite him to live in our area so he can be with the brothers. And they're like, no, he's with the Brixton lot. I said, so? Why does that matter? I mean, that's even more reason to bring him around, isn't it? That's the whole point of dawah, bring him to be with the ikhwah. That was the thing. Be with the man, them, innit? That's how it is. And they were like, no, not until he makes himself clear. And I thought to myself, I mean, why? I mean, he's coming here, he's new to Medina. I mean, there's all the good reasons to be inviting, but you're telling me no because he's not from your gang. And so again, when I started to hear these behaviors, I started to ask the Mashaykh, Sheikh, is this correct behavior? And I'm like, no, that's not correct behavior. And that's kind of where I started to distance myself from that party. And I kind of became like almost like an outcast in that area because I wasn't in that same area as those brothers. And certain things that they were demanding as necessary, I'm saying that's not necessary. And they kind of just eventually almost pushed me out of the Mandem group, innit?
But see, Muawiyah, just to jump in there, yeah, exactly. But one of the things, Muawiyah, and I think it's a good lesson here to see, as because you're younger than us. Abdurraheem and myself are quite stubborn individuals, and we don't really accede to peer pressure, even though there's immense peer pressure which could have swayed us one way or the other. And I think that what I'm hearing from you is in seeking the truth, in seeking the sunnah, you're not going to be swayed by peer group pressure, peer pressure, or partisanship or anything like that. And that's really, really important, I think, for anyone and everyone who is a Muslim, who is seeking truth, who is seeking justice, not only for themselves, but for others. Wa alaikum salam, Brother Jordan. Not just for themselves. So what you're saying, and that must have been very difficult, because I know when I was obviously in Saudi, I used to come and visit the brothers in Medina and everything. And it could be a very lonely place when you're being ostracized and isolated. And again, I remember when Abdurraheem, I've mentioned this to him before, I remember when he started taking a particular stance in challenging particular issues. And I understood it, but I was wondering about the timing. But Abdurraheem was just ahead of the curve in that particular instance in some of the things that he was actually raising, because I realized later on, shortly after, I was doing exactly the same thing. And in my, from Brixton, being sort of questioned or eyebrows raised in a similar way. But the point of the matter is autonomy, independence, is really, really important. And that doesn't mean we will move as satellites on our own. Being with the Jama'ah is the correct thing to be, so long as the Jama'ah is upon correct understanding, manners, everything that comes with it. But if it's not, and there are elements where you feel, no, this is in contradiction to what I understand on the deen with regards to behavior and everything like that, then we've got a path to pursue with or without anyone.
And it's very hard. It's, like you said, Abdul Haqq, it's really, can you imagine like you're a revert or a convert, right? And like you've made that change from that former way of life. You've probably left all of your friends behind, maybe even your family, not because you wanted to. Maybe they've distanced themselves from you. And then you found this new community, right? And then you find that there's things really out of order about some of these people, right? It was really, I remember that was a really tough time. It was really tough because some of these people were people you thought of as your friends, right? And, yeah, it's tough. But, bro, listen, I think we only got a few minutes left, bro. Muawiyah, there's one other thing that, like, you're becoming sort of a bit well known for, right? And, like, could you just give us a little insight in what is all this stuff about Bitcoin, bro? Are we going to hear more about it? Where can we, how, like, I'm just fascinated. Like, because obviously everyone's talking about Bitcoin. Elon Musk has just invested what 1.6 billion, 1.9 billion into it. What is going on, bruv? Like, obviously, don't give us a whole long lecture because we only got like 5 minutes. But where can we find out more? And how did you get interested in this?
I mean, the best way to describe it is what was my initial motivation for learning about Bitcoin. So when I was developing the website for the madrasa, I was looking into avenues to accept payments. How can I accept payments for people to book? Because many, as you know, with all these kind of things, if you're gonna have an event or a lesson or whatnot, you need to get money in, commitment before you even go ahead with the actual event. So at that time, it was about January or July time to get the website ready for August so everyone can start booking. And I had some problems with PayPal. Just a headache getting it sorted out. So I thought to myself, what other avenues are there to accept payment? And then I figured, okay, there's this thing about Bitcoin, this money. Would that work? Is that something that can work as a payment option? And that kind of opened a rabbit hole for me, to be honest, because then I discovered essentially it was an avenue, it was a means for me to get my money out of the riba system. Because it's always been a big gripe for me. It's always been a big, pet peeve. I live in a society, money's in the bank, they're using it, they control it even. They control what I do, what happens to money, where it goes, how it comes, that kind of stuff. So that kind of led me to think, wait, then again, is this an option for me to put my money in, have control of my money, real control of my money, and use it as it's supposed to be? And that's kind of what led me down that rabbit hole of Bitcoin. And it literally opened up a whole new avenue of things, discussion, which kind of led me more to move towards educating Muslims about finance, about money, about generating money, about business. Because at the end of the day, as both of you know directly, da'wah can't function without money. Muslims can't function without money. Islam was built and functioned around the generation of halal income. So if Muslims can't generate income, they can't do anything. And a lot of people, even the ulama said that when Allah mentions that those who make jihad fi sabilillah bi amwalihim wa anfusihim, they make jihad in the cause of Allah with their wealth and their nafs, the scholars highlight that Allah started with the money before the nafs, as in seeking and striving for Allah's religion with your money, your wealth first, before your nafs, because no jihad is taking the place without the money. No. Even if you have the will, it's not happening without the money. And I realized a few years ago, if the money is not working out for you, if you ain't got the financial support, it doesn't matter what ideas you have. You think about da'wah, converting the whole of this ummah to Islam. It's not going to happen if you can't even pay the bills. So that kind of led me down a rabbit hole, learning about finance, how the banks work, how everything works. So Bitcoin is not just about one thing. Actually, it opens up almost everything. And it's asking the questions about what is money in the first place and all that kind of stuff. So I think we've got a lecture, or we've got a discussion on Thursday, I think it is. Abdul mentioned on Thursday, I think 7 o'clock. No, 9 o'clock, some mad hours like that. 9 o'clock.
The late night show, yeah. So next Thursday, Newcastle FM, Fast FM, we're going to be doing, I will tell you, I think it's called The Late Show. I'll be there as well. Muawiyah will be there.
Abdul Haqq might even
listen in.
John Fontaine's going to be there as well, isn't
John's
he?
Going to be John's going to be, fighting the other corner, isn't it? You're going to be like, yes, Bitcoin, and he's going to be like, no.
Should have done a pose like that.
Guys, as usual, Newcastle Fast FM. My brother asked a question: is Newcastle Fast FM based in Newcastle? It originated from there, but I'm in Dubai. Abdurraheem's where he is in the UK. Muawiyah's in London, Shropshire, and we're all over. But Newcastle Fast FM is the name. Newcastle Fast FM is the game, and that's where we all are. And what I want to say, Abdurraheem, I'm going to hand it to you to conclude, but I want to say Jazakallah khair to Muawiyah. This isn't the last and last time you're going to be on Muawiyah. There's so much more we can benefit from you, and those who are participating can benefit from you. And I think we've got brother Jordan who's here, who mashallah is doing a lot. He's just started doing some really interesting things, short videos and clips, and you don't know him, but you should get to know him, and he should get to know you. There's a lot of good stuff he's doing, and as I say, he's got a lot of his channel on here at the moment now. And I think Newcastle Fast is doing some unique things, as I've mentioned, and bringing together some very good du'at personalities, brothers and sisters, and the topics that we're discussing and the format in which we're discussing them, you don't find anywhere else, to be honest. So I'm going to say Jazakallah khair again, Muawiyah, and I'm going to hand to Abdurraheem to conclude, inshallah, on this show.
For joining us, bro. Yeah, Abdul Haqq as well, bro. Yeah, this is obviously Abdurraheem Green over here, and that's
Abdul Haqq Baker over here, and that is
Muawiyah down here.
Yeah, and this Abdul Haqq has been a
piece of cake.
All right.
Jazakallah khair. And see you brothers soon, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.